This film begins with a group of FBI agents, led by a guy named Tim. At that time, they're watching closely a gang of serious thieves. At the same time, the thieves, who are pros, are chilling in a car not too far from where the FBI is watching. There's Will, Vincent, and a lady named Rayleigh. Meanwhile, their friend Hoyt is already inside a building, trying to hack into its security system. They're planning to rob this place. Once the security is down, Will and Vincent jump out of the car and sneak into a toy store. Meanwhile, on the roof of a building across from the toy store, FBI agents were watching closely, getting ready for a surprise attack. Inside the toy shop, Will and Vincent quickly grabbed some high-tech gear they had brought. Earlier, Will had made a hole in the wall, so they could sneak into the bank next door. When the surveillance team reported that the thieves were making their move, Tim and his team got ready to storm the building. At the same time, Will and Vincent hurried down the stairs towards the bank's money area, while Hoyt and Rayleigh waited in the car. When they reached the huge safe room, they used special explosives to blast open the safe. Meanwhile, the FBI agents were inside the building, but they couldn't find Will, who they thought would be robbing a jewelry store. At that moment, Tim quickly realized that Will and his crew were actually going for a bank nearby. Inside the safe, Vincent was amazed by the gold bars, but Will decided to grab $10 million in cash since they were short on time. Once they stuffed all the cash into a bag, they dashed out the back door of the building to meet their getaway ride. Meanwhile, FBI agents had entered the building and were heading for the safe room to catch Will and his crew. But things got tricky when Will and Vincent bumped into an old man on their way out. Vincent wanted to silence the old man, fearing he'd spill the beans about the robbery. At that moment, Will stopped Vincent, but when things escalated, Will had to shoot Vincent in the leg to stop him. Then he quickly dragged Vincent into the getaway car. Soon after, Will dashed to grab the bag of stolen money he'd left in an alley. But unexpectedly, Hoyt sped off in the car, leaving Will behind. Afterward, a patrol car showed up to arrest Will. He had to overpower the cops and steal their car to escape. Meanwhile, Tim got word that Will had fled in a police car. He tracked down Will and chased him, leading to a wild pursuit. Unfortunately, Will got trapped in an abandoned building. With the FBI closing in, Will decided to burn the money before they could arrest him. Long story short, after 8 years in prison, Will was finally free. When he got out, he bought a doll for his daughter. But soon after, 2 FBI agents, Tim and Fletcher, showed up to take him away. They broke the news that his partner, Vincent, had died. Then they brought Will to his ex-wife's place to meet his daughter, Allison, who gave him a package. At that time, Will took Allison to a cafe to talk. He told her how sorry he was for everything he'd done in the past as a criminal. 8 years behind bars made him realize he needed to change and be a better person. But Allison seemed to still be angry and disappointed with him. She stormed off, leaving Will behind. There, Will tried to apologize and follow her, but Allison was mad. Suddenly, she returned the doll he gave her and explained she'd been seeing a psychologist because of the mental issues caused by Will's crimes in the past. Meanwhile, Rayleigh is working as a waitress at a bar where cops often hang out. One officer tries to flirt with her because he finds her attractive, but then Will shows up and Rayleigh looks happy to see him. Turns out, at that time, he's there on purpose because he wants to find Hoyt, who he suspects might be a traitor in their group. While they're talking, a phone rings from the package Allison gave Will. Surprisingly, it's Vincent, the guy Will thought was dead. Vincent has been hiding and pretending to be dead all this time. He's changed his look with long hair and lots of tattoos. There, Vincent asks Will for his share of the stolen money, but Will says he burned it before the FBI caught him 8 years ago. It turns out Vincent has kidnapped Allison to make Will give him the money. When Will finds out, he threatens Vincent. He tells him if he even touches Allison, he won't hesitate to kill him. While Will is freaking out because Vincent has kidnapped his daughter, agents Fletcher and Tim are secretly watching him from a distance. Vincent takes Allison to his hideout and calls Will to tell him he lost his leg after the robbery. When they get to the hideout, Vincent injects Allison with something to get back at Will. There, Will tries to tell Vincent his money is with his lawyer in Tuscaloosa, hoping to get Allison back. But Will knows Tim and Fletcher are tailing him, so he tries to get away from them. In the chaos, Will buys a new phone and leaves the one Vincent gave him on a train to Tuscaloosa. Meanwhile, Vincent locks Allison in the trunk of a taxi. Later, Will goes to Tim's office and confesses he burned all the stolen money before the FBI could arrest him. There, Will asked Tim to help rescue Allison from Vincent's grasp, but Tim didn't believe Will because he thought Vincent was dead. Even though Will was honest and begged for help, the FBI didn't trust him. Instead, Fletcher arrested Will again, thinking he was the leader of the gang behind all the thefts. In the elevator, Will knocked out the two FBI agents and stole their access cards. With one of the cards, he hacked into the FBI's database to find out where Hoyt was. Once he had the info, Will left the FBI building before they could catch him. Meanwhile, Vincent was tracking Will's location through GPS, leading to Tuscaloosa. But then a stranger got into the taxi, ignoring Vincent's orders to leave. The guy even started talking on the phone, annoying Vincent. On the other hand, Allison, stuck in the trunk of the car, tried to get help from a passenger by cutting a hole in the back seat. But before she could ask for help, Vincent dragged the guy out of the taxi and beat him up. The man left his phone behind, so Allison tried to reach it. At the FBI office, Tim found out Will was trying to find Hoyt's address. Soon after, Tim sent agents to Hoyt's apartment right away. Meanwhile, Hoyt got home and found Will already there, pointing a gun at him. Will threatened Hoyt, demanding to know where Vincent was. At first, Hoyt didn't want to tell Will anything. But when Will got violent and threatened to shoot him, Hoyt spilled the beans. He said Vincent had Allison in the trunk of a taxi, driving around town. Soon after, the FBI arrived, and Hoyt took the chance to grab the gun from Will. He managed to paralyze Will, but when he opened the door, the FBI shot him. As Will tried to flee, he jumped out the window and ran into the street, only to get hit by a taxi. Remembering Hoyt's words about Vincent driving around in a taxi, Will decided to steal one. Meanwhile, Allison almost called the police for help, but Vincent's taxi stopped when a patrol officer noticed the brake lights weren't working. When the officer asked Vincent to open the trunk, Vincent panicked and shot him dead. At that time, Allison saw her chance to escape, but she got trapped in a dead end. Unfortunately, Vincent caught her and injected her with something. Meanwhile, Will forced another taxi driver to help him track down Vincent's taxi. After getting the info, he let the driver go and chased after Vincent. It was Halloween, so the roads were packed with traffic. Then Will decided to jump from car to find Vincent's taxi. Long story short, Will finally tracked down Vincent's taxi. But Vincent had tricked him by changing the taxi's serial number and hiding a tracker to throw Will off. Shortly after, Tim and Fletcher showed up and arrested Will. In the car, Will tried to break his thumb to get out of the handcuffs because he had to take a call from Vincent or else Vincent would harm his daughter. In the struggle, they crashed the FBI car. Luckily, Will survived and answered Vincent's call. He lied and said he didn't have the money but promised to meet him where they did their last robbery. In reality, Will didn't have the money and planned to rob the bank again. He asked Rayleigh for help to steal gold to save his daughter. Meanwhile, FBI agents found Vincent in their database, proving Will was telling the truth about Vincent being alive and holding his daughter hostage. On the other hand, Will and Rayleigh went to a warehouse near the bank they planned to rob. They went underground and broke into the bank's safe room, where they found a lot of gold. Will melted the gold and had equipment ready to steal it. Later, the FBI was shocked to find some of the gold had melted and flowed underground. Soon after, Will and Rayleigh loaded the gold into Rayleigh's car, but the FBI tracked them down and chased them. It turned out to be a trap set by Will and Rayleigh. Will had already left in another car, heading to meet Vincent. Not long after, Tim and Fletcher found out where Will and Vincent were meeting and rushed there. When they arrived, Will gave the gold to Vincent. But instead of taking the gold, Vincent set the taxi with Allison inside on fire because he was mad at Will. Seeing what Vincent did, Will fought him and threw the car into the lake. He tried to open the trunk, but Vincent reappeared, and they had a big fight. After defeating Vincent, Will saved Allison and finally killed Vincent, sinking his body in the lake. In that moment, Allison was scared to see her dad hurt, but luckily, an FBI helicopter arrived and took them away. In the end, Will, Rayleigh, and Allison were relaxing on the beach while Tim and Fletcher watched from afar. They hoped to catch Will with the gold they left in Rayleigh's car, but Will tossed it into the sea, seen by the agents. They decided to close the case and stopped following Will and his crew. The film ends. The moral lesson from this film is remember, when planning a heist, always check your GPS settings and make sure your brake lights work. Otherwise, you might end up in a fiery mess with a grumpy FBI agent on your tail.